We ban doctors who strike from earning overtime. Get your calls in right now. Another big NHS strike gets underway in England and Wales tomorrow. That's from 7 a.m. tomorrow until 7 a.m. on Wednesday. We're going to have 50,000, what they now call resident doctors, used to call them junior doctors, walking out. And if you're worried about your appointment, at the moment, we don't know exactly how many appointments might be cancelled, but we do have a clue from previous industrial action. There's a bit of maths that you might have to do here. Previous walkouts, we had March 23 to July 24. There were 44 days, bearing in mind we have 5 days for this current walkout. During that time, 1.5 million appointments were cancelled, OK? So we're going to see a fraction of that, if you like, an 11th of that. It might work out at being, you know, if you do that maths, somewhere about 100,000 appointments cancelled. But it is guesswork, because we haven't been told exactly how we're going to be affected. The key thing for people to remember is that if you have an appointment during this period, if you are affected, the hospital will contact you, and please don't make the assumption that your appointment is not happening when it is, because that would be a massive waste of everybody's time. Now, the important thing is this. Any doctor that's striking won't receive pay for the days that they walk out. But previously, they have been able to make up for lost shifts by working overtime. This time, though, the new boss of NHS England, Sir Jim Mackey, says he doesn't want them to be able to do that. He believes they should face the financial consequences of going on strike. I'm thinking, Lizzie, I look at this strike and I know how many people are going to be affected, and we know that lives are changed when these appointments can't be met. Do you not think that if we don't offer that overtime to doctors when they do come back, that backlog is just going to increase, isn't it? We're just going to, people will still have those appointments. You have to get the doctors to work the overtime to clear the backlog.
No, let me just tell you from the start, I think it's an absolute shocking disgrace they're doing this. And sadly, people are going to die. From the last strike, 5 people did die. And I spoke to my friend last night who's waiting for an operation. She's in absolute bits that this operation isn't going to happen. She's very scared about her, her illness. So
she's been told that the appointment's not going ahead.
It's not
the operation's not happening.
Yeah, and what that has done to her mental health. She was in bits last night. And where is their duty of care? They're putting greed, their own greed, before their own patients. OK, let's look at the specific of overtime. The idea that when they do come back, they'll be working longer hours to clear the backlog. You know, if you're receiving overtime, and presumably you'll be on a different pay scale for the overtime, we can assume that. How does that feel to you? Yeah, no, I think it's a disgrace. I absolutely am appalled. And the senior doctors that are going to have to cover for these doctors are getting £3 a day. That's hitting the patients, it's hitting the NHS.
I mean, they're not going out on strike.
They're not going out on strike, yeah, but they're covering, and they'll be getting that £3 a day. I'm sorry, but where's their duty of care? They knew this was a caring profession. They know what's going on in the world. They are the highest paid in their sector so far, and they're being advertised at, at 99,000 a year wage.
OK, that's not resident doctors' starting wage, and
yeah,
they won't earn during
the doctor salaries from 32,000 up to 145.
Well, yeah,
plus.
Those won't be the resident doctors we're talking about. OK,
it's a disgrace.
It does feel hard if you're a patient and you're seeing that your operation has been cancelled, maybe an operation that is absolutely key for you, that you've been waiting a long time for. And then you see that, well, effectively, there's no financial penalty to these resident doctors when they come back, because they'll make that money up again through overtime. That doesn't feel right, does it?
It doesn't feel right in the sense that protests are never good, strikes are never good, and I don't think anybody wants to strike any more than the doctors or the NHS staff. But for me, there are 2 things at bay here. So we have, first of all, the idea of the protests. And if we rewind back 5 years, I don't know if there's a public sector group that have been betrayed more than the NHS. We had the audacity to clap them. We all lived through the pandemic, but they fought the pandemic. And for us to now condemn a restoration of salary, to me, I think it's acceptable.
That's controversial, isn't it, when we talk about restoring, because the way they've calculated what the wage was in 2008 and how it relates to now, the interest that should have been paid on that over that time they're using an outdated way of doing that, RPI rather than CPI?
I think there's a big question about that, but I think also that's what politics is. We go to the government and it's a constant manipulation of data. But for me, the second part to it is, should they be condemned specifically by not being able to do the overtime? That actually kind of, that clause in my throat, because it doesn't seem right that we're having a demand, there's a demand that isn't being supplied currently, and I don't think there's any evidence. Where is the evidence that this is exploitative by the doctors, that they're striking to then take advantage of this time?
There's no pain for them. There's no pain for them. If they can make that money back through overtime, where is the jeopardy for them going on strike in the first place? They know that the extra work will be there to put that right, to pay their bills.
How is this fair on the patients, though? It's so unfair on them. You're saying it sticks in your throat. It sticks in my throat what they're doing to those people there waiting that are going to have their missed appointments. It's going to be costing, they're saying up to, could be 87 million this on the NHS. We are footing the bill. It's not fair. They've already had a pay rise. Why weren't they happy that with the first time round? And why wasn't Keir Starmer saying, you know, he was saying he's got them in, you know, no more strikes, we've got them in my pocket. Well, he obviously hasn't.
I want to take some callers and then we can come back. John's in Leeds. What do you think, John? Does the idea of overtime for these guys, where they might end up being net zero, if you like, across the board after this dispute, does that feel right to you?
Well, it just seems ridiculous to me that this could be put out to the people. Nobody wants to go on strike. These people, you know, this isn't a job, it's a vocation. And for them to get to this point, there's got to be something drastically wrong. And whether you agree with their arguments that they've lost a lot of money over the years and they're simply asking for it to be caught up is neither here nor there. The top and bottom of it is the laws of this country allow every man to withdraw their labour, provided they fulfil the legal requirements, the draconian legal requirements, I might add, that have been put in place. And that's what they've done. They've actually done that. They've got the results that they require, and it is their right to do that. The arguments against them going on strike take away the hurt and everything else that the people is there from. The same people have been that all they will do will put the number of appointments, the number of operations that will be able to take place back, and the waiting list will increase. Well, my common sense tells me that whether they're earning money afterwards or not, that outcome will be exactly the same if you do not allow them to work overtime later on.
OK.
The result will be exactly the same, surely. The increased waiting list and the cancellations will be the same.
What's wrong, John, with the idea of saying, well, look, you've taken this time off, now you've got to make that time up later on, and actually you don't need extra pay for that. You chose to go out on strike, you chose to avoid work for those 5 days, now you've got to make up the work that you didn't do during those days.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. They can say that, but they're using it against them, that somebody that has fulfilled their legal requirement in order to withdraw their labour. And if they want to do that, that's their right to do that. And if the hospital services at a later stage want them to come in over and above their working days, then they have to pay the overtime to do it. OK,
the difference is, though, John, if I withdraw my labour, nobody dies. Nobody cares, but nobody dies. That's the key. If a doctor withdraws their labour, then there's the chance that when somebody comes into A&E and they're bleeding out, that doctor can't help them. That's the difference.
But you're actually talking now about blackmail of the heart, if you like.
It's reality, John. It's not blackmail, it's reality. And people are going to die. And they shouldn't, I think, be allowed to strike, like the police, like the army.
How do they improve their situation then, Lizzie? How do they ever improve? We've seen years where they haven't made those steps forwards, where, as Radzi said, they've been taken for granted. We've given them a big clap when we thought it mattered, and then we've ignored their pay. How do they improve their pay and conditions?
I agree. My friend's been in hospital recently, had amazing care. you know, I can't salute the doctors and nurses enough for what they do. But we cannot keep going on strike. They've had a huge pay rise. Keir Starmer said, oh, no more strikes, I've got them in my pocket. Wes Streeting's even said, look at their pension they get, the golden pension they get. You know, they can't keep taking and taking. Greed, they are looking like greeding. They're losing the sympathy of people. They really are, because they're putting their own greed over the patient's care.
Pragmatically, if we talk about billionaires potentially leaving this country under the wealth tax, what do we think is happening to doctors? A BMA study, a third of doctors are at least considering leaving the country. USA, Australia, Emirates, even Ireland, these are huge options. We've trained these guys up and now they're going to leave us. That's a travesty. And
so what, do we just keep giving them willy-nilly? You know, it's like we give them what they want and then they'll come back for more.
Well, I don't know necessarily about that, but when we say they shouldn't be allowed to strike because of essentially the blood that will almost be on their hands, the consequence, the mortal consequence, it's for that reason that they justify the increase.
Let's take another call. Philip's in Nottingham. Philip, should we ban overtime? OK, Philip, I think, has gone on strike himself. Susan's in Worcester. Susan, should we ban overtime for doctors that strike during these 5 days?
No, I think we can't do without doctors, and they do deserve what they get. Give them a rise.
OK, you've heard the arguments from Lizzie there. Do you think that is emotional blackmail, saying somebody's going to die if you go on strike? Will that always stop them from actually trying to improve their pay and their conditions? Is that a kind of blackmail, do you think?
That's going to happen anyway, isn't it? Whatever they do.
But the fact is, Susan, people are going to die from these strikes. And they have gone into this profession knowing, you know, they've got a duty of care to people. I'm sorry, I think they should not be allowed to strike, like police, like the army. You know, 5 lives were lost on the last strikes. And I just think, as a doctor, knowing your profession, how can you do this again? And they're the highest paid in the sector. They've had a rise. Why did they accept the last pay rise?
Susan, you know, doctors who are working right now understood the pay they were going to get when they signed up for the job, and yet they're going back second strike, second set of industrial action over the last couple of years. You know, does that feel greedy to you?
No, I think they earn every penny they get.
So you're happy for them to keep coming back?
We cannot do without doctors.
But, Susan, you're expecting doctors just to keep, you know, whatever they want, we give them. I'm sorry, that's not fair and it's not right. And they have a duty of care to their patients.
What I will also say is we're talking about should they then have to repay back the time they've struck for. Well, if we look at the overtime that's often unpaid, we talk about the unpaid fees that they have, whether that's to the BMA, the GRC, whether it's all the qualifications that they'll do, whether that's for post-grad studies, courses, presentations. There are so many elements of the doctor's profession that they just do out of the goodness, ultimately, of their own heart. And I think the idea...
And look at the huge pensions they're going to get as well.
Rightfully
How about
so.
that? A golden pension. You know, we can't just keep giving in to them, you know, because they'll just come back again.
But I'm
and then
grateful
more
for
lives
them.
will be lost.
Or
I'm grateful,
but
I don't want
overseas.
anyone to die, and sadly people are going to die.
We have to leave it there. Thank you, Susan. Thanks, gang. Don't forget later on...